Well, there's no place I'd rather be than here with you tonight, talking about my last 2-week obsession. And I'd like to go ahead and get started and tell you about my young man that I worked with. His name, for the purpose of my report, was Student 1, but his real name was Isaac. And I met Isaac in my intervention in my field experience. And when I first found out that I had to have a student to do a behavior project on, my cooperating teacher recommended Isaac. Isaac is just the most wonderful young man that you could want to meet. However, during independent math work time, he was not on task. Not at all. When we did baseline with Isaac, 65 to 75% of the time he was off task in the first 5 data points that I collected. That's a lot. Now, off-task behavior, first let me tell you about Isaac, his background a little bit. Isaac is a little boy that's in 3rd grade, and he has a birthday in June, so he's one of the youngest boys in his class. He's small in stature. The boys lined up to go take pictures, and he was the last one in the line, so he's the shortest boy. He wears glasses. He has health problems where he has asthma and allergies. He's allergic to red dye and strawberries, and he just recently went through a battery of tests and had a scope. So I know that he has some health problems. He's not athletic. He doesn't participate in any extracurricular activities, and he does have a lack of coordination. He has a tendency not to even want to use his left hand at all, and we're still trying to figure out what that may be. He did have a broken arm, and we think maybe he might have some nerve damage in his left hand because he says it feels weird. So it might be tingling a little bit. Now, Isaac has recently been through a tough situation in his home life. His parents are recently divorced within this last year, and both of the parents have significant others at this time. When interviewing the classroom teacher, she described the parents as doting parents. So they really give him, he's the only child, so he gets whatever he wants. Also, when I interviewed Isaac and I asked him how he was with the divorce, he said he's all right because he gets to spend every Friday night with his dad. From talking to the classroom teacher and my cooperating teacher, I get the feel that the parents are the type of parents that are non-authoritarian parents. They're more concerned that Isaac favors each of them separately versus being a type of parent that sets structure and discipline. So he gets whatever he wants. The only thing that Isaac is very interested in is Legos. He's a Lego enthusiast, and he has been to all the different Lego lands, and on vacation they center around that. For Christmases, he wants Legos. So he must have some spatial ability. I did notice in the classroom, though, some learning characteristics. He is not a visual, he's more a visual learner than he is an auditorial. If the teacher will give directions verbally, he just doesn't get it. He has to see it. So I think that maybe is part of the problem with the math, because she says a lot of things verbally, where if she would show more examples on the board, I think maybe he would get that more. Just to let you know a little bit about my cooperating teacher, she's an old school teacher. She does a lot of external control. She is very harsh with Isaac. And anytime Isaac is off task, she's very stern with Isaac and yells at him. And this little guy just takes it and goes back and tries again. However, what I see happening is that he's getting a lot of sympathy from his classmates when the teacher's harsh with him. they'll like pat him on the back or, give him the eye that, boy, she didn't really need to be that mean. So I think that's meeting a need. First, he's getting attention from the teacher, and second, that he's getting attention from his classmates. Small class, very close-knit group, all go to the same church. It's a private Christian school. They see each other not only during the school day, but they see each other at church and junior church and youth group. So very close-knit group. This class is like the picture-perfect class of any teacher. Really wonderful kids. When I first approached this project, I had to clarify in my mind that I had to pick one student, one task, one student, one behavior, one intervention, in one setting. So as talking to the classroom teacher, she wanted me to watch him, to observe him during independent math time. So the first step in the process was to list all the different troubles that Isaac had. And let me see if I can, I don't know, do I use my computer? Yeah. So here are some of the things that I observed. Him tapping his pencil, talking to himself, head on the desk, playing with his hands under the desk, off-task body movements, playing with books, out of seat without permission, sitting on legs, and this is just a few, making funny noises, looking and smiling around at classmates, instead of doing his independent math work. So we determined then to take some measurements, to see how much he was off task. So we decided that around 9 o'clock she started independent math each day. So we decided to use the partial intervals worksheet to take measurements. So we decided on 10 minutes using 20 intervals at 30 seconds each. Does everybody understand that? 10 minutes, be 20 intervals at 30 seconds each. Now with the partial interval, anytime during that interval, if the student is off task, you check it. So he may not be off task that whole interval. I want to tell you, a lot of times in baseline, he was off task the whole interval. Okay? But be aware of the fact that sometimes when you use partial intervals, it can show greater than it actually is, simply because he could be off task the first 10 seconds and then be back on task the next 20 seconds, but you count him off task for the whole time. So during baseline, 75%, he went down as low as 65%. We did two inter-observer agreements, and I tried to do that. It's right in the middle. I did 5 data points in baseline and 5 data points in the self-monitoring. The first time, we both got the same amount of time. He was off task 70%. However, now this was a little tricky thing that I didn't realize and kind of worked through with Loretta. Even though that we had the same amount of time off task, our intervals didn't match up. So I had to create a graph that matched our check marks or our X's, and we had an 80% inter-observer agreement. Now, does that make sense? Even on this chart shows that we are exact. Our intervals did not match, so 80%, which is good to go in, both on the self-monitoring. She only got 15% off task. I got 20, but we still were at an 80% inter-observer agreement. Am I saying that right? Okay. So I was very pleased with the results of the intervention. Let me tell you what I did real fast because I only got a couple minutes. I did an all-class intervention, and I gave everyone in the class a behavior folder, and this is yours to keep. I had the students, we did a half-an-hour intervention, and the whole class needed some intervention because they were not following their own classroom rules. We went over their classroom rules, and we played a game with the ball, and I don't know where that ball ended up. But what we did is we used the ball to pass it around the room, and whoever got the ball then said the classroom rule that they needed to work on. There was a lot of blurting out, not raising hands. You can look at, and this was posted on a poster when I came in. I just reinforced this. Then we determined for the whole class a morning routine and an exiting routine. And not only did Isaac participate, everybody had a folder. And the reason I did this is because I didn't want Isaac to feel singled out. Okay, I didn't want him to think it was just him getting intervention. So the whole class got intervention, and then this was part of my field experience. And then we had an exiting routine, and at the bottom of the exiting routine, they got to self-evaluate how they felt their day went. All the class members had the self-monitoring form, and I asked them to check that, the 2 questions, answer yes or no after each subject. So everybody was filling this out, not just Isaac. I did a 15-minute intervention with Isaac, and I explained how the timers work. Have you seen this? And this was a suggestion of my CT, because in the study that I read, they used the clock for 5 minutes. She thought that was too long for him, so we decided 3-minute egg timer, and I was amazed how great this worked. And again, we just did it during independent math time, and you can see by the graph how much his off-task behavior, because I think it gave him control, it gave him power, and everyone else had one of these folders, and I actually asked a second student to do it during math too. Isaac was my target, and the second student was the decoy, so he wouldn't, again, feel singled out. The only external, extrinsic reward that I used was not for behavior, but for the students at the end of the 5-day intervention to turn their folders in so I could look at what they collected. And I did give them a candy bar, but they had to turn the folders in, and guess how many folders I got back? All of them. So, you know, there is a place to use extrinsic rewards. However, I believe not to use it because of good behavior is a reward in itself. Good grades are a reward in themselves. But if you need them to do something that's out of the norm, I think, you know, offering a candy bar works every time. So, any questions? I'm sorry that I went over. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.